So you want to do a long trail or a through hike. These are 10 tips to help you through hike, and it could be for any trail. I will refer to the Pacific Crest Trail because that's one of the many trails I have done. But welcome to Marmalade Outdoors. I'm Mike, aka Marmalade Outdoors. I got that on the PCT. If you don't know much about me, I finally completed the trail over 5 years in 2023. I started in 19, got about 900 miles in, and unfortunately had an accident on trail, broke my ankle, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. And so I have a lot of experience. So I've finished the trail over 5 years, so I've experienced everything. I've done the long trail in Vermont and the High Sierra Trail and a bunch of others. So I've been backpacking and hiking for about, I think about 8 or 9 years now. So I'm starting to say I have some experience now, and I'm not new at it, but I have a lot of a wealth of knowledge and experience. And the main thing, the purpose of this video is not to show you shiny, fancy new gear and go ultralight and you need this pack and all that kind of stuff. This is common sense things that I've experienced and learned on trail. Now, some of you guys who have done a long trail or a through hike will know most of these or some of these, but this is kind of more for people that want to learn everything they can before they start, or it's their first through hike and they just want to learn the most valuable, important things to know when you're on trail, in my opinion. Now, there's more than 10, but I thought of 10 good ones for you. So with that said, let's get started. Okay, as that said, hike your own hike. Now that is maybe the most cliche thing you hear on trail or any trails, but it's so true. There's reasons why they're sayings, and it's because they hold true for most trails. But people get caught up in trying to, I've got to do 15 or 20 miles a day. I've got to do this. I've got to get to Canada. I'm talking about the PCT in a certain amount of days. I got to do this. I got to do that. Sometimes you get in a tramway with other people that you love hiking with, and you start picking up the pace and going way faster and farther than you should for your body. Your body's screaming and telling you no, but you want to keep up, and you're having such a good time. You're willing to actually sacrifice your health, possibly get an injury, and having to stop just because of that. And so it's really important to listen to your body, as we said, and we'll talk about it more, but not go so hard at the beginning. Pace yourself no matter what your ability. It doesn't matter if you can do 30 a day. You don't want to start out that way generally. And then or 5 miles a day, whatever it is. Listen to your body. Your body will tell you when you're on the verge of pushing it. For me, one of the things that tells me during the day, even when I can do big miles, when I'm in really good hiking shape, is I start dragging my feet towards the end of the day. I start tripping a lot. A lot of my friends say the same thing, but I don't pick up my feet. I start tripping a lot. That tells me that I'm getting, I should be quitting soon because I'm getting tired and I could possibly have a hard fall. Okay, train. As it said, this sounds silly, but I happen to be around I live in San Diego. I'm around the start of it. I donate my time to shuttle hikers, and I sometimes will just drive a few hikers to the terminus, but I'm around the start of the trail all the time, and I see a huge percentage of hikers that don't look like they're in any kind of hiking shape. They haven't not only not tested their gear out, but they have not trained. Now, the thing that I preach all the time, this trail and all long trails are mostly mental. Yes, it's a physical challenge, but like any sport or activity, once you hike enough, like for me, I start leaning down and I start to fly and I feel great. I can trash my body and the next day wake up 100%. That happens after 2 or 3 weeks and you get your trail legs. But where people make the trail and finish the trail is not the physical, it's the mental. Ask anybody that's ever done a long trail, because as I said, at some point you're in physically great shape, but it's, do I want to do this every day? And the training is what makes you tough. I happen to be lucky enough when I was a beginner for 2 or 3 years, I section hiked on the PCT in section A and B, so the start of the trail. I didn't intend when I first started to ever do the whole trail, but I fell in love with the activity and the challenge and all that and testing myself. But what I didn't realize, so after I started the trail, because even though it was physically more, it seemed like it was more demanding for me. I'm a bigger guy than some people who are smaller and just flying down the trail. It was physically more demanding and more effort for me. I realized that later on that I had done my due diligence and been on the trail over and over and over and over for years before I actually got on the trail for real. So there's some of the things I'm going to talk about later. It was my mental probably some of my past sports and things I've done has helped me be stronger mentally, but that I had done my due diligence specifically with backpacking to be able to handle whatever came my way. So essentially, roundabout to the start of it, train so you can get, you don't have to be in 100%, but train so you're in good shape, but it's mostly so you're mentally tough. The stats show that 30% of hikers quit literally before 100 miles. So basically before section A, 30% quit. And yes, there's injuries, maybe somebody passes away in their family, but it's mostly because of willpower and the mental strength. Okay, the third one is actually an important one, but something that almost nobody that's ever done a long trail thinks about. But as it said, is be mentally prepared and have the right mindset to possibly do the trail in your mind by yourself. Now, I did most of the trail by myself. That doesn't mean I was by myself, but it means during the day I did hike with some others towards the end and here and there. When you get to water sources, there's plenty of hikers. You get to campsites. Sometimes I'm the first. I start really early. I hike 12 hours and I stop early, like 5:30 to 5:30. And a lot of people hike later than that and they start late, but they'll show up at camp near me later. So I was always saw people and around people. For me, I vlog, so I make a video for all my hikes, and so it creates a very unusual pace. And I think other people that don't vlog have a hard time hiking with me because I'm fairly fast when I'm in shape, but then I stop a lot to film, so it's a weird pace. So I tend to hike a lot by myself. Even if I'm in a tramley, we get spread out or I get behind them because I stop to film, and then I eventually meet them at camp. But be prepared in your head. You won't, but be prepared to possibly do the whole thing alone, because there'll be a time when you're with a tramley and you love the tramley, and then something happens and you get hurt and you have to take a rest and you lose your tramley, or vice versa, all that stuff. And you may have to hike a lot or all of it by yourself, so just be prepared for that. As you saw, yet again, another exceptionally cliche saying, but embrace the suck. That is the saying for the PCT. Any long distance hiking, many parts of the day or whole days or whatever are going to suck. It just does. That's why so few people actually finish the whole thing, because as I said before, it's willpower. So embrace it, know it's going to happen. That's where all that training happens and you get that toughness. One of the things that I think will help with this, embracing the suck, is reminding yourself of your why. You got to start with a why. Why are you doing this? Sometimes your why changes as you go through a long trail like this. It takes almost a half a year, but knowing your why. So when it sucks, and I never contemplated, there's days I did not want to be out there, but I never thought of quitting. But if you're having days where you just don't want to be out there or you want to quit, you have to know your why, whatever that is for you. That's your driving force. So know your why. It keeps you on trail. And one of the things I've always said is almost every time I had a really bad day, the next day was almost my best day ever. And I always think in my head, man, if I had quit yesterday, I would have never had this day. So just keep that in mind and trust that it's not going to be all rainbow and sunshine. So yeah, just embrace the suck. No, it's not going to be always great. It doesn't mean you're negative. The way you get through that is to be exceptionally positive. Okay, as that said, listen to your body. Another very cliche saying, but it's exceptionally true. Your body is going to tell you everything. So the thing I preach a lot in my area of people that are starting, the hikers that I drive to get them to the start of the trail, is no matter how accomplished you are, a lot of people don't come onto the trail 100% ready to go like they've been on trail for half a year. So you're not in the shape you're going to be, so take it easy. For me, when I started, because I lived near the PCT, I could do 20-mile days, but I throttled back to start on my actual through hike. And even though I'd done Section A 10, 15 times, I just did 15 miles. That was good for me. And at 15 miles, not that it's a contest, but I was probably going further than 80% of all the hikers. So there was 20% going as far as me or further, but most people didn't even go as far as me. So it made me feel a little better, like, well, maybe I felt like I maybe was underachieving, because like day one I got to Hauser Creek, which is mile 15.4, and it was like 2 or 2:30. In the summer it's light at like until 7:30 or 8, and I'm like, I got 6 more hours of light. I probably should just keep going, but I promised myself I wouldn't push. And just listen to your body, because that's where a ton of people get off trail. As I said, I drive the shuttle. I probably picked up 6 or more people last year in the first 20 or 30 miles that they were excited and pushed way too hard and sustained injuries and had to go home in the first 20 miles and 30 miles. So injuries happen. I had an injury, but just know that if you take it easy, what does it say? I'm looking at my notes here. I was looking at my notes, and as we always say, another cliche thing, it's not a race, it's a marathon. So take it easy no matter what your age and ability is, and just take it easy early on. I did the Section A. One day I did 18, and a couple days I did 14, but I averaged 15 miles a day, and then I bumped it up to like 17 or 18, and I just, through the desert, I just slowly bumped it up. I was a new thru hiker, so I didn't know what my body could handle over and over and over again. Most of the hikes I did were 2 and 3 days, so my body could handle that, but I didn't know what my body was going to do at my age. I started the trail at 56, I think. So, I wanted to make sure I was kind to my body. So just take it easy, no matter what that is for you. Be okay with it, and you'll prosper. You can't get to Canada, as they say, in a week or two, but you can definitely count yourself right out if you get an injury. Okay, number 6 is yes, you will spend way more money than you think. Even if you've been on a long distance hike, let's say you've done the AT, I've heard that it's a little bit less expensive there than out west. So save up, do yourself so you can enjoy your hike and you don't have to go home because you run out of money. It's also stressful if you start getting low on money. There's things that you don't, if you've never done a long distance hike. I had hiked, like I said earlier, section hikes for years, and all my gear was dialed in. Night one, my pillow that I had for 3 years went flat. Of all the nights, the first night on my thru hike, I had catastrophic gear failure, at least for thru hiking through the desert. And I went through 2 air mattresses. I lost some stakes, broke a couple stakes, so I had to get those. My water filter clogged up. I broke a tent pole on my thing. There was a few other things I can't even remember right now. So that could actually make you want to stop because it's so frustrating. You're just like, screw it, I don't want to do this. But just those are things you may have to replace. Thankfully, I bought some of my stuff at REI. So at mile 444, a bunch of us that was the next closest REI. All my stuff was purchased there. So we 4 of us had all kinds of problems with our gear. We took an Uber, and those things were covered. But there's other expenses. I want to look at my notes here. Like the average person goes through 5 or 6 pair of shoes. My shoes are 140 a pair of shoes, so that catches up to you by the end of the hike. You also have things like worn out clothes, ineffective gear, we said damaged gear, like maybe it's not broken all the way, or just things you found out because you didn't do due diligence ahead of time, but that just didn't work the way you thought, or you're unhappy with them. So that's all stuff you have to replace along the way. Lastly, the most expense is trail towns. You're obviously going to have to get a resupply. That's practically the most expensive thing, but you need a hotel once in a while. Laundry costs money. You go out to restaurants and eat. It never ends. There's even paying some towns, or the trailhead is so far from the town, you hitch. A lot of my times I just hitch for free. You want to offer them money when you hitch, but most of them don't take it. But there are trail angels that do it for a living. So there's a lot of instances along the trail where I gave somebody 10 or 20 bucks to get to town or get back to town. So that's just stuff that adds up. A town could be, if you do a 0, you've got to do a 2-night stay. That could be $200-300 in your hotel, plus a resupply could be $100. So you could get in town and spend $400 or $500 or more dollars, depending on where you are. So just keep that in mind when it comes to saving your money before you go on the trip. The last thing I'll tell you is one of the things you can do to save some money, and I started doing towards the end of mine, was not doing a 0. 0 is when you take a complete day off. So you get a room, the next day you don't get on trail, and then you get another night of a room. So you have 2 nights, and then the next night you get on trail. But if you don't know what Neros are, instead of zeros, take a Nero. I did that a lot. I'd camp really close to the town, hike in 3 miles, hitch, be in town by 9 or 10, get a resupply, get some food, get a shower, laundry, all that stuff. A couple times I got back on trail like 2 or 3 o'clock, and I would just hike a few miles and camp. But that way I'm not paying for a hotel and some of the things that would cost extra. If you were to mix those in, if you're feeling good, or maybe I tried to pick how I felt. Sometimes I needed the rest in a hotel. The other things I would pick is if I get to a town that's, you can tell by Far Out app that it's exceptionally expensive, then skip the town. Also do an on-trail 0. If you have a really pretty section, even like the Sierras or something, it requires you to carry another day of food, but maybe you go somewhere where it's beautiful, there's a lake or a stream, and you can swim and soak and sleep and catch up on your rest. Do it on trail. A lot of people do not do that, but it doesn't cost you anything, and just lets you stop walking every day and have some peace and some rest. Okay, as you saw, number 7 is be present. This is something I think I'm kind of forced to be present because I film everything. So when I'm hiking, I only do it just as a person. Even if I didn't vlog, I like to see everything. But as I video, I pay attention to everything. But I also try to be present. I say this, it sounds weird to even mention this, but there's so many people, especially I think younger people that can do huge miles. They have earbuds on and head down and they just go. And their goal is just to get as many miles in, and maybe they picked out a campsite 30 miles from the start for that day, and that's all they care about. But look around, be present. You're never probably going to be there again unless you do the trail again. About 20% into the trail, I started looking back, and it's fun in the Sierras to say, man, we started way back at that mountain that was way back there, and we're already here, and it's only been 4 hours. So look back and appreciate what you've accomplished. Also, the trail always looks different from the other direction, but yeah, be super present. There's no reason to rush unless you're doing like an FKT, which is fastest known time. Then, of course, you're on a different program. But just try to absorb all the views, the smells, the sounds, and everything. Okay, number 8 is a real thing, post-trail depression. I don't think I've ever been depressed, but it changes your viewpoint on life and everything. And so it's kind of like you're in this, if you make it all the way, you're on this trail for, I was a little over 5 months, 6 months. And all of a sudden you're thrust into reality and back to reality. And it's just such a opposing place. Depends where you live too, you know. I live near a big city, but it just thrusts you back into everything, and it's stress, worries, and responsibilities. All of a sudden you have all that stuff. I just love the trail because I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I have in my life, but I don't think I've ever been so free and happy, even when it's a hard day on trail, when I don't have anything to think about. The only thing is really just where's the next water? You know, how many miles? I don't worry about it, but I think about, okay, well, what kind of day am I going to have? Am I going to get the miles in I wanted to? Sorry, the bugs are starting to swarm, the little flies. But yeah, so when I come back, everything seems exceptionally fast and loud. Now, I don't have a solution for this. I'm not trying to give you solutions for everything, but just know if you've never done a long trail, that's going to be part of your life. Now, there are, the biggest percentage of people feel this way. There are a percentage of people that do a long trail like the PCT because it's a giant, hard, expensive endeavor. And when they get done with that trail or the Appalachian Trail, they've had enough of it and they're good. You know, their goal is to try to, back east, they like to do the Appalachian Trail, and out here they like to do the PCT. But like, it's a goal to do it. When they get it done, they're good and they move on to other interests. So the small percentage of people are like that, and I think the post-trail depression doesn't affect them because they don't have, it hasn't changed them as much. But people that fall in love with this activity, it just, you can't recreate it anywhere else besides getting back out there. So a lot of people, when they're done, are like, man, that was tough, I'm never doing that again. And literally like a week later, you're like, man, I missed the trail. And you start realizing the great benefits of it. So anyway, just know that that's going to happen most likely to you. One of the many things I learned about myself, and you saw the title of this, is you are much more capable and strong than you think you are. Some people do know it. I think that I've always been confident. I've been an athlete my younger years, my whole life. Pursued professional golf, four-sport athlete in high school, college athlete, but I know I was capable at a certain sport, but I didn't know that I was tough. And through hiking will just teach you what you are capable of. And that's what I talked earlier about being mental. It is physical, but once you get in shape, it's not physical anymore. It's just whether you can stay in the game. Most activity and sports don't take a half a year, you know, and so they're not so tough where you have to just endure for so long. But when you're done with it, what it teaches you about yourself is just incredible. I don't really toot my horn very much. I have other people bring it up, but I kept thinking about why I excelled at long distance hiking, and I consider myself a very average hiker. When I'm in shape, I hike fairly fast, but I don't think I'm that great of a hiker, and I don't think I'm a bad hiker. I think I'm somewhere in the middle, like an average hiker, an average experienced hiker. But I kept thinking along the lines of why did I succeed and why am I decent at it? And it's because of my mental advantage. I think was all the sports I played, but especially I played 40 years of competitive golf and was ranked highly and all that. But I think that golf it has nothing to do with hiking, but it taught me that you have to be resilient, you have to be good, especially hiking too, be a good forgetter. When I hit a bad shot or had a bad hole in golf, it took me a long time, but I learned to forget it. It never happened. If you watch pro golfers, they have a bad hole, then they almost always birdie the next hole because they are able to separate it. So when I have bad days or bad moments, the way I get through it, and actually the way I get through terrible things in life, is that it's not like I don't ignore it. I address it. I don't push it away, and then I move on. It's not in my rearview mirror anymore. And I think that's what you do with long distance hiking. When I was saying about tooting my own horn, I think I've always been fairly resilient. You know, I was 800 something miles in. In my first year, I did the desert, 702 miles. There was too much snow. I came home, and most of us that year flipped to the Canadian border. And the theory was to do the rest of the PCT south through Washington, Oregon, Northern Cal, and let all that time let the Sierras melt and finish at the Kennedy Meadows through the Sierras. So I got in Washington, was doing great, and I was in the steepest, most difficult, and most unmaintained part of the whole PCT, the Northern Cascades, and I was between Stehekin and Stevens Pass coming south. I actually had the trail in a very narrow, steep part, avalanche, and I was stepping on my left foot right when the trail gave. I heard a giant crack when I bent my ankle at a crazy angle, and I went off this cliff. And to this day, I don't know how I saved myself. I was probably 6-8 feet below the trail, what was left of it. Climbed back up, was testing my ankle, and I think instinctually I knew I was in trouble. I knew I probably broke my ankle, but I could put my weight on it, and I kept testing it, and it started to get huge. And I hate to do this to you. I may show you a picture to tell you or show you what I was dealing with, but I could put my weight on it. It hurt incredibly bad, but I could put my weight on it. So I'm like, well, it can't be broken. It's not snapped, so I must have tore some ligaments, something like that. So I did about 16 miles. I did about 10 more. At that point, I had done about 6 miles, so I did about 10 more miles. And then when I was in my tent, I just looked at where I was, and I was hesitant. I didn't want to push my Garmin and get rescued. I also thought it might be a $70,000 or more helicopter ride. I was in the most impossible place to get rescued, so I didn't want to do that to anybody. If I had snapped my leg in half, I would have pushed the button, but I could limp on my foot. It hurt. It hurt the most pain I've ever endured, almost. But I looked at my app, and I had 80 miles, and I was about 5 miles ahead of my schedule for that section. I had 80 miles left, and I had 4 days of food. So I ended up doing 4 20-mile days in the steepest, most unmaintained part of the whole PCT in the Northern Cascades, and I willed myself to do it. And I'm not trying to sound dramatic or anything. I tried to play games mentally, and I kept telling myself pain is only temporary. You know how when you burn your finger on a stove, it hurts like hell, but then it goes away pretty quickly, so it's kind of like that. But I just had to play mind games with myself. I got up extra early so I had more time on trail because I was going so slowly, and I was favoring that one. I was limping really bad, but I made it all the way out of there, and I was proud of myself. My other leg started hurting by the end because I was basically all on that leg, my good leg, and not on the ankle. But yeah, I went and got x-rays and had a long fracture and hike over. So the only reason I'm telling you this is not to talk about myself with that, because I really don't talk about it much. But it's just, it teaches you how tough you are. I'm not saying you should do the PCT with a broken leg. I'm just saying that, it's mind over matter. So when you're healthy and you have good limbs and everything looks good, and you're having a bad day, that's the least of your problems. Be thankful that you're not hurt, you're not going to work, you don't have to be anywhere, and just stay in the game mentally and emotionally. Okay, number 10 is so true. Whether you do one of these trails or you do 20 of them, you'll never be the same, but in the best way possible. It's so great because, in the U.S. anyway, we're taught you've got to go to school, you have to get a degree, you have to get a really good job with a good title, make lots of money, and that's the root of happiness, to own things. I've been a homeowner, I've owned lots of things, and have things, whether it's toys or go on vacations, whatever, but that's status, and that's what brings you happiness. But if you really look at things, how many famous and super wealthy people are happy? Yes, it relieves the stress of bills and that kind of stuff, and you get to have a nicer house and things like that. But the thing I've learned as I've gotten older is that I used to spend a lot of money in buying things that made me happy, and everybody knows, it's very temporary. And just like drugs or anything else, you've got to buy the next thing to bring the happiness to you, and it's just an endless cycle. And through hiking, the only thing I'm going to tell you guys, and this is my own perception, but when I was new at hiking and not very good at it, I was so sore and hurt so bad after my early like weekend backpacking trips. And I would swear I'm never going back out there again, never. And then as soon as I got home a day later, I was like, I can't wait to get out there. And I couldn't figure it out first because I was cussing and swearing and spitting at the mountain before going up a giant mountain. And then, you know, a day later, I'm wanting to go back out, and I try to figure it out. And for me, and I'm not saying this for anybody else, for me, it does three things long distance backing, and even like a weekend trip does for you. And, you know, our bodies need exercise. What's great about walking is a slow impact. So it's great for you. We're made to walk. So you get the exercise your body needs. For me, the other two things, to make the three things up, are that it's, generally speaking, beautiful. Even when I go on a day hike, it's like I'm in this place, this beautiful park that I've never been to before. It's a public place I can do these videos in. But every time I do a hike, I'm outdoors, and I see visually my receptors see beautiful things, and it's beautiful, and you're taking it in, and you don't instantly feel it, but it's so good for your soul. And lastly, it's quiet, especially remote backcountry. It's quiet and peaceful. You don't have street cars, you don't have noise, all that stuff, the loud noise. So you have exercise, you have beauty, and you have peace and quiet. For me, I do my best thinking when I'm hiking. When there's things I want to work out, or problems, or anything, or thoughts about, okay, well, what do I want to do this next summer for backpacking trips? I go hike and I think about it. Sorry, I'm just pausing to think about it. There's no way to create it except for to do this. That's why it's so addictive, and people do it over and over again, because although it's hard physically, it's so mentally and emotionally fulfilling in so many ways that I still probably don't understand. But I'm actually so thankful that I found it later in life. I refused a day hike or walk, or forget backpacking, even do a day hike, even when I was married forever. I did. And I laugh about it now. Sorry, I just had an alarm on my phone turn off the video. So the end of this video is I laugh about it now because I just didn't want to hike, and now I'm in love with it. I wish I could hike every single day. Hopefully someday when I retire, I'll be able to do it every day or almost every day. But yeah, so these are 10 things. I hope they help you. Sorry that this video is a little bit long, but it's just talking about what you're going to experience and what you're going to feel, especially on your first hike. Or even if you've done a hike, you know, you probably know some of these things. There are more things, so if you think of them, put them down below. These are for people. This will help some of you that are experienced, or will help for new hikers. I also am doing a lot of Q&A, so if you have some questions, even if you're experienced, if you have a question I can answer to help other people, put it down below, and I'll do it. I'll give you credit when I'm in a video doing it. And the last thing I could ask for, please, 90% of the people that watch are not subscribed. To grow this channel and get this out to more people, please just subscribe. It helps. It's free. If you hit the like button, that gets it out to more people. That's also free. And hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I have more of these videos. If you think of some more topics for long distance hiking, let me know, and I'd be glad to make it if I think it's relevant. There's a way to support my channel. I don't ask a lot, but go down in the description box below. You can do a one-time donation. You can write them off. The best one is you can do a monthly one with my Patreon, where you get some videos and things ahead of time before other people get it. But it just helps creators like myself do that. There's other ways down below, so check it out. I have merchandise. If you like the Marmalade logo, you can get merchandise, or maybe give it to somebody as a gift for their birthday. But that's all I got for you now. I just wanted to help you guys that are going for the first time. I hope this eases your worries and things like that. And until next time, we'll see you down the trail. Bye.